Hi, Sarah here with the layout process video. This one is for the UK Scrap Addicts creative team, and this month we are all doing the same sketch. So be sure to go and check out what the other girls have made over on the UK Scrap Addicts blog and also on the YouTube channel for the other process videos. I'll be leaving links below for all those good things, and if you are watching this on the UK Scrap Addicts YouTube channel, then I'll be leaving links to my own channel so you can check out my videos. So to begin with, I wanted to, rather than use a paper down the centre as in the sketch, I decided I would do texture paste background instead. So to begin with, I'm just adding texture paste through this stencil. All the products used in this were from the the Scrap December kit, except for the actual texture paste. The stencil did come in the mixed media kit though, and I'll leave a link to their shop as well. So I then leave this to dry while I work out what I'm going to do with my photos. I know I want to back them before I add my pattern papers behind them, because I find that helps them pop off the page, especially if the page is quite busy. And I'm just using this offcut from the side of it's from a mixed media pad. I use it to create layouts, and then I just trim off the edge and then use that for mixing paints or backing photos. I just use it up however I need to. And so I'm going to back each photo in white. I decided that white makes them pop better than the black. And then I'm also going to slide the photos into each other, as you'll see in a second. Hopefully it'll make sense, so that I don't have to back the whole thing and then cut all the different angles. I just put them all together, as you'll see in a second. I'll move all my papers out of the way as well, because I'm finding it hard to see what I'm doing because it's so cluttered there. And then I know I definitely want the little face one in the middle and the other two either side, and I decide to switch up what side I work from, because I want my little boy on the bottom one to be looking in towards the page rather than out of it. So as you can see there, I've just slipped the photo underneath the photo next to it on all those. And then because on the sketch there was a ruffled torn page effect on there, I decided I may as well do that as well. So I've ruffled up the edge there. My final layout isn't that close to the sketch, but there's definitely quite a few elements from the sketch in there, including the ruffled up page, and I also do some faux stitching in black and white. So on the sketch there is a tag. I decided to just go with that cute little card there. And now I'm just going to layer some papers behind my photo to help it pop off the page. I also want to use some of that orange paper as well. So I do a piece of that as well. I just trim it a bit smaller just to create some more layers. And I also take each of the papers and ruffle up the edges just to make it look a bit more messy. I want it to be a nice messy kind of layout. So I do there we go, that's me changing my mind of what way around things are going. So I do want it all to be quite messy. I decided to add some of my mermaid markers by Jane Davenport onto my page piece down the side here, and I love how it turned out, and then I ruin it and then I end up adding more. But it's a learning curve, isn't it, with mixed media? I'm definitely no expert, so I just sort of learn as I go along. I decide to do a bit of a smushy effect on this, and then I go back in and add a little more colour just to make it more vibrant. So I think if I'd have left this and just let it dry, then I would have got a lot better effect from it rather than smushing it and stuff. So I'll definitely try that next time. Now I'm just showing you the colours I've used there. So now that is dry, I decide that the green isn't quite right. All the green goes with part of it, but I really want that really pale lime green as well, so I just add a few splashes and smushes of my distress ink in, I will have a look, Twisted Citron. I also ruffle up the edges off this because at this point I think I'm going to use this whole piece in one go. And now I think I'm going to bring in, I bring in my backgrounds, because with me working on a black background I don't feel like I'm seeing exactly how it's going to look, so I needed to bring that in to kind of decide how I want things to be pieced together. And at this point I decide that I don't like the way this is looking, so I add some black ink splashes to it to try and make it match more with the black background so it all works together. So I add a few splashes there. I'm just working out now how I want to lay out the rest of the papers and how far in I need to place the papers in order to make that watercolour piece work. And obviously, as you can see by the lighting change, I gave up on that day and came back to it the next day to finish it with fresh eyes. So I'm just using a distress tool. I've distressed around the edges of those two pieces there, and I've decided that I need to only use part of this piece here. I also don't want it to go all the way down the page, so I'm ruffling up the edge of there. And then I also decide that I may as well trim this in half and have it peeking out either side, so I get to use more of the interesting splashes of colour, but without it being too wide on one side or most of it hidden. So I put one on one side and then I add the other piece with the more colourful side. I flip it around in a second on the other side. So I'm pretty happy with that now. I know there's a few more details that I definitely want to add, but I will get this stuck down so that I can move on. So I'm just using my ATG gun to glue all this down because it's not really too much on top of the texture paste. It does stick down quite well. If it was more on the texture paste background, I would add wet glue just to help it hold, because texture paste does not like adhesive at all. So I'm getting all these, I line this up so that they work neatly together. I realised that I probably should have put this one down first, so I just peel up the edges, but because I'm going for ruffled edges, it doesn't need to be a really neat, clean, simple line, because it's all ruffled anyway. I've torn off a few little bits of that page. So now I had a good tidy up and I've got all these scraps, so I'm just using trying to use up some scraps before I use a whole piece of foam. This is fun foam, really cheap. You can get it from Hobbycraft in a big pack from the children's section. So I'm just going to add some wet glue on the back of here and just stick that down. I use glossy accents, you could use any really. I've just put my scissors on top just to help it bond with the paper. I really want to use that other acrylic piece, but it doesn't make it onto this layout, much as I do try. I keep bringing it back in. And now I'm just going to grab loads of stickers that I think will go with it. Most of the papers and stickers are from the Wild Child Pink Paisley collection, and I think I do use one of the chipboards from the Good Vibes, and they're all from one of the MTS kits, either the main embellishment and then the stencil is from the mixed media one. So I'm just sticking down some thickers and I want them nice and wonky, so apart from I do move them slightly, but they pretty much stay as they are there, just, you know, a bit messy. And now I'm just adding stickers where I think they'd look nice, with little phrases and things that I think go quite well with that crazy little boy there. I do move a couple of them around a little bit, but I try not to stick them down too much so that I am able to peel them up, but these ones were pretty sticky, but I did manage to move a couple of down without damaging my page. The main thing I think is to either take the sticky off with some of that embossing powder, non-static powder, or Just put them down really lightly so you can peel them back up if you want to change where you put them. So I moved on now. I wanted to make sure that my white page piece there goes with the black background, so I decided to add some faux stitching, which is also in the sketch. And I also want to add some splashes of colour to make the little mixed media page piece go with the background more, so I do add some splashes of green and orange Dylusions ink sprays. And then to make the stitches from the page work on the background, I add the opposite, so I add white stitching on the black background to try and draw the title in with it all as well, because it seemed like it was floating on its own. And I also add some of those orange dots as well to help that draw everything in together. And that is me done. Thanks for joining me today. If you'd like to see more from me, then please like and subscribe, or find me on my channel if you're on the UK Scrap Addicts one. And please go and check out what the other girls have been up to. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.